In recent days, the newly inaugurated President of the United States, Trump, has made a variety of statements about a possible meeting with you and the prospects for a Ukrainian settlement. I would like to know your opinion.
First of all, I want to say that Russia has never refused contact with the United States administration, and it is not our fault that the previous administration abandoned these contacts. With the current U.S. president, I have always had businesslike, exclusively businesslike, and at the same time pragmatic and trusting relations. I would say, I cannot disagree with him that if he had been president, if his victory had not been stolen in 2020, then perhaps the crisis in Ukraine that arose in 2022 would not have happened. Although it is known that Trump, being president during his first term, also imposed a significant number of restrictions and sanctions against Russia. I do not think that this was a decision that corresponded to the interests not only of Russia, but also of the United States itself. By the way, Biden picked up this baton and introduced even more restrictions, and the result is well known. Many decisions that are harmful to the U.S. economy itself. For example, the weakening of the dollar's dominance, because banning Russia from using the dollar, while we did not refuse the dollar, it was the previous administration that did not allow us to use the dollar as a settlement currency. In my opinion, this decision inflicts very serious damage on the United States itself. We will not go into this now, but I can only say that we see statements from the current president about his readiness for joint work. We have always been open to this. As for the issue of negotiations, we have always stated, and I want to emphasize this once again, that we are ready for these negotiations on the Ukrainian issue. But there are also issues here that require special attention. For example, as is known, the current head of the regime in Kiev, when he was still a relatively legitimate head of state, issued a decree banning negotiations. How can negotiations be resumed now if they are prohibited? We are now within the walls of Moscow University. As is well known, my basic education is in law. I graduated from the Faculty of Law at the University of St. Petersburg, then called Leningrad University. I can tell you that if, within the framework of the existing regulatory framework, negotiations were to begin, they would, strictly speaking, be illegitimate. And that means that the results of these negotiations could also be declared illegitimate. The current regime in Kiev is happily receiving hundreds of billions from its sponsors. Excuse my bluntness, but as we say in our country, they are gobbling up these hundreds of billions with both cheeks. But when it comes to following the instructions of their sponsors, and we know that such instructions exist, they are in no hurry to repeal the decree banning negotiations. But I think that, in the end, those who pay the money will have to force him to do it. And I think he will have to do it. But as long as this decree is not repealed, it is quite difficult to talk about the possibility of starting, and most importantly, properly concluding these negotiations. Some preliminary outlines, of course, can be made, but talking about serious negotiations under a ban from the Ukrainian side is difficult. In general, we may have quite a few points of convergence with the current administration in the search for solutions to today's key issues. This includes strategic stability issues and economic matters. By the way, why? We are among the world's largest oil producers. The U.S. now ranks first, followed by Saudi Arabia, then Russia. But what is characteristic of the Russian and American economies? We are not only among the largest energy producers, but we are also among the largest energy consumers. This means that both for our economy and for the American economy, prices that are too high are bad because energy resources are needed to produce other goods domestically. And prices that are too low are also very bad because they undermine the investment potential of energy companies. There is a lot to discuss here. There are also other issues in the energy sector that may be of mutual interest. By the way, in this regard, I doubt that the current President of the United States, Mr. Trump, whom, I repeat, we worked with during his first presidential term, would make certain decisions, even if we hear about the possibility of imposing additional sanctions against Russia. I doubt that he will make decisions that would harm the U.S. economy itself. He is not only a smart person, but also a pragmatic one, and I can hardly imagine that decisions would be made that harm the American economy itself. Therefore, most likely it would indeed be better for us to meet, relying on today's realities, and calmly discuss all the areas that are of interest to both the United States and Russia. We are ready, but, I repeat, this primarily depends on the decision and choice of the current U.S. administration.
Thank you.